Okay, gentlemen. Well, what can I say? Good afternoon, good morning, good day, wherever we are. Welcome once again on behalf of the leadership of the African Leadership Magazine, His Excellency, pardon me, let me start that again. Welcome once again, gentlemen, to this afternoon's valedictory meeting. On behalf of the leadership of the African Leadership Magazine, I'd like to welcome you all here again today. So before I go any further, let me just acknowledge the presence of His Excellency, Senator Doyin Diri. You're very welcome, sir, the Executive Governor of Bayelsa State. And of course, our speaker today, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, President of African Development Bank. So you are very welcome. And we also have present in our midst this afternoon, the chairman, Dr. Barry Benoit, Chairman, Contact Global Group ALM, also a partner to the African Leadership Magazine. We also have Mr. Sandeep Jayaswal, CEO Greenfields, also a partner of the African Leadership Magazine. Present also, Dr. Jonathan Oguibite, Special Advisor, Investment Promotions to the Bayelsa State Government. And of course, the publisher himself, the man who makes it all happen. How do we, I haven't left you too last, sir. But we also have in our midst our very own chairman, Dr. Ken again. On that note, I'd like to invite you, sir, to please take it away. Welcome us to this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. As always, it's always a pleasure getting to meet our very distinguished leaders here present. Let me start by recognizing we're here for this valedictory evening with Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, the president of the African Development Bank Group and the outgoing African of the Year. We are celebrating him today with this valedictory ceremony. We're very proud to be associated with him. And on behalf of African Leadership Magazine, let me say, hearty congratulations again on your 61st birthday yesterday. And like I said, over on the internet the other time, I meant every word. You are one man who continues to inspire not just Africans, but all lovers of Africa. You're one reason why people want to invest in Africa, want to do business with Africa. Look at you and they see integrity, they see professionalism, they see a worthy partner and someone to work with to make the destinies of our people what we all dream it to be. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. And Your Excellency, the Governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Doyin Diri. You're welcome, sir. And the distinguished guests, I've been made to stand on the existing protocol read out by Priscilla, ALM partners, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I welcome all of you to this beautiful valedictory evening with a man I have grown to admire and cherish. And with a beautiful, I call him Dr. AAA now, our outgoing ALM African of the Year, man who, his name is Triple A's, and he had consistently ensured that the bank maintained its Triple A ratings over the year. He emerged African of the Year with a resounding win of over 65% of total votes cast during a continent-wide poll that produced him. Africans from all walks of life and shades of thought voted to endorse Dr. Adesina's leadership and impact in the lives of ordinary Africans. And it was with the same enthusiasm that accolades and appreciations kept pouring in during the presentation ceremonies, which took place exactly about the same time, February last year, at the Sandton Convention Center, Johannesburg, South Africa, an event that was quite colorful and had in attendance the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency David Mabuza, We had senior government officials and ministers, business leaders, academics, and everyone said the same thing, that indeed Dr. Adesina is a man on whose head the caps fit. 1 year after, it's even clearer that Africa made the right choice. Because for the last 12 months, though it's been very challenging and eventful globally, and without doubt, very, very tough for Africa, just like it was for the rest of the world, but it was an opportunity for the world to see the true leadership stock that Dr. Adesina is made up of. Under Dr. Adesina's leadership, African Development Bank had shown responsiveness and innovativeness in supporting African nations to address the coronavirus pandemic. He launched a $10 billion crisis response facility to support countries' immediate need for liquidity in dealing with the pandemic. He also came up with a $3 billion fight COVID social bond on global markets, the largest US dollar denominated social bond ever in world history, and listed on the London Stock Exchange, on the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, and others. And while Africa is not out of the woods yet, but we have fared better than initial predictions because of the responsiveness and leadership provided by Adesina's AFDB and, of course, other African leaders across the continent. The last 1 year too, Dr. Adesina has led in providing access to food and nutrition to Africans in the most need. He's announced something that's very close to my heart, a commitment to launch the Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Banks, first of its kind in Africa, that will help in creating a viable financial ecosystem to unleash the resilience, the entrepreneurship, and the businesses that's deep within Africa's young people, our greatest assets, as well as accelerating efforts to mobilize $5 billion for Africa's women through the AFDB's Affirmative Finance Action for Women, among several other interventions. I therefore want to salute the courage, the commitment, and faith in Africa that Dr. Adesina has continued to portray in serving our continent, inspiring us all to aspire to do more and build back faster. Indeed, Dr. Adesina, you have infected all Africa with your optimism, and little wonder our editors called you Africa's optimist in chief. In the last year, Dr. Adesina also won re-election as president of the bank for a second term, with 100% endorsement from the board's governors, a reflection of this kind of vote that made him African of the Year earlier. Of course, it was no smooth ride to re-election, but it was indeed a triumph of truth over evil. And the bank maintaining its AAA ratings with all the major global ratings firms is another confirmation that the Board of Governors did bet on the right person. And Africa today is better for it. African Leadership Magazine therefore feels immensely proud of the president's contribution as the bank, as he had raised the performance bar, not just for future bank presidents, but also for future African of the Year winners. Indeed, this award was a call to greater service to the people, especially at a time that Africa truly needed leadership. And I want to tell you, sir, that you did meet up to expectations. Well done. As Dr. Adesina rounds up his reign, yes, I think that's a good time to clap. Thank you. As Dr. Adesina hands over to the incoming African of the Year, who will be taking over from him, Dr. Tedros Adhanom, the Director General of the World Health Organization, another distinguished African who is serving at the international scene. We call on Dr. Adesina not to rest on his oars. Africa still needs him to continue to push to cause us to recover stronger, better, faster. And as one of Africa's leading global ambassadors and image makers, we're counting on you to continue to build legacies for the future of the African people and continue to build bridges globally. It's for that reason why we have some of our ALM partners here today. We have the governor of Bayelsa State, who within the last 1 year has shown the people of Bayelsa State that it's not going to be business as usual. Its foray into driving investment in the midst of the pandemic calls for great appreciation. And it was for that reason why we're happy that he's part of this meeting, and we'll be hearing from him soon. Also, we have Contact Global, one of the leading agri-tech companies in Africa, who we've partnered with to show that young people in Africa have options. We can come out of the woods, and we have leaders who are partnering with African companies to make a difference. But therefore, in closing my remarks, I also want to call on Dr. Adesina to help in putting in place greater opportunities for direct partnerships and collaborations between the bank and the private sector, as we believe that such intervention to save small and large businesses in the months ahead will go a long way towards our post-COVID recovery. It is those partnerships that we believe we will be seeing more of. We are therefore hopeful of the future, and we look forward to a resurgent Africa, an Africa led by people like Dr. Adesina, and we look forward to working with you in the months ahead. Thank you so much for your attention, and I wish all of us beautiful deliberations this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, that was simply amazing. Thank you, Dr. Gyami, for that. And I'm not going to keep us because I know that we don't have much time today. So I'm just going to quickly hand over now to Peter, Peter Bowden, who's going to just have a very quick fireside chat with Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. So Peter, over to you.
Priscilla, thank you very much. And Ken, thank you very much for those inspiring words, which I think very much set the tone of what we're attempting to do today. Do you know, as I read African Leadership magazine, the word that comes ringing out in article after article is sustainability, the ability of Africans to create sustainable businesses, sustainable leadership. And I think that personifies the man we're honoring today. And in fact, I feel doubly blessed. I don't know if you know this, Doctor, but if I go back 6 or 7 years, I was on the panel of Forbes Africa magazine that made you their African of the Year. So talk about sustainable success. You are your longevity goes before you, and it's absolutely wonderful. And of course, that's led you to places like being guest of honor at the UK government's Africa Investment Summit last month. At that summit, you said you were much more optimistic about Africa than you were 12 months ago. What are your reasons for that optimism?
Well, thank you very much, Peter, and thanks for the role that you played when I was nominated also African of the Year by the Forbes magazine. Let me thank Dr. Gyami for a fantastic set of remarks that you've given all of you that are on this platform, because apparently you're the one that actually also inspired me, because you give us the platform, you give us the support, excellent support, I must say, to do what we do every single day. And Peter, as I look at you, I see you're wearing a bow tie, so that gives me a lot of optimism just to start right there. It's cool. Now, let me say that, last year was pretty challenging, as Dr. Gyami certainly said. We got all those challenges with COVID-19 and so on. But see, in life, you don't choose the challenges. In life, you choose your response to challenges. You cannot be in charge of challenges. And I think I'm particularly very, very excited with the way that we were being able to get Africa stabilized right through this particular pandemic and give Africa a leg up in being able to get back and to recover from that pandemic. Now, the issue, of course, is when you look at the impact, tourism went down, billions of dollars of tourism went down, commodity prices fell, the price of crude oil actually bottomed out. All countries, exporting countries were suffering a lot in terms of, current, account deficits. You were seeing, many currencies being devalued. You saw inflation actually going up. Economic activity came to a standstill, and the fiscal deficits of countries just continued to rise, including debt, by the way. But we managed to go right through that. And as I look at Africa, what are the things that make me always optimistic about Africa is that Africa's fundamentals of growth haven't changed at all. Africa still has 1.2 billion people, that population is going to grow to 2.4 billion people, double by 2050. A rapidly increasing and growing middle class. Urbanization is growing very, very fast on the continent. We have a dynamic young population on the continent, that's actually going to trigger greater growth for the continent going forward. So these are the fundamentals that are there. And you look at also the fact that we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Now, Peter, that free trade area, is the largest free trade area in the world with a combined GDP of about $3.3 trillion. And that will allow Africa's exports to grow by about $550 billion in a year. So it just tells you that the fundamentals are actually strong. I will always be optimistic about Africa. Whether it's agriculture, and I want to thank you very much for Cotec that you're working with on agriculture. 65% of the global arable land left to feed, 9 billion people in the world. It's not in Asia, it's not in Latin America, it's not in Europe, it's not in the United States. It's right here in Africa. So Africa continues to be the frontier in which people invest in. But let me look at what the recovery pattern looks like for you. Last year, Africa's economy went down by 2.1%. But this is the lowest growth rate we've had in 2 decades, right? So literally we lost that growth. But as we look at 2011 this year, we are projecting that Africa's economy will rebound back with about GDP growth of 3.4%, which is great. Now, not where we want it to be, but look, this is a recovery pathway. And I'm excited, we have the governor, His Excellency, with us, Donye. Your Excellency, welcome to this dialogue. And you are in an oil state. And so the impact of commodity declines and what that means for you, right? And so when we look at the trajectory of actually growing back, right? Let's take, for example, the tourism-dependent countries, like Kenya, like Tanzania, everywhere like that. The economics went down by minus 11.6% last year. This year, we project they'll bounce back by about 6.7% this year. Now, we look at Nigeria, Congo, and all the others that are dependent on oil. The economy went down by minus 1.5% last year. We are projecting from the African Development Bank that it will bounce back this year to about 3.1%. Now, we take others that are dependent on minerals, metals, and so on. As the commodity prices declined, they were also badly affected. Last year, the economy was about minus 4.7% in terms of GDP growth. This year, we project a bounce back to about 3.1%. Now, there are others like Rwanda, Cote d'Ivoire, Tanzania, that are and maybe others like that are Ethiopia, let me say, that are not resource-intensive countries that have diversified their economies very well. Last year, their economies declined significantly by another 4-point-something%. This year, by about 0.9%, I must say. And this year, they are going to go back by about 4.1%. So when I see that recovery pathway, when I see commodities coming back, and I see the fact that we have vaccines that will make economic activity being able to rebound back, I can't but just continue to be optimistic that, we've gone through a very rough patch. The fundamentals of Africa are very, very strong. And it will continue to be strong. I think all we have to do is make sure that Africa has access to the vaccines that it needs to be able to secure its economies and grow back. So look, Peter, I will always be Africa's optimism chief.
And I think a lot of people were predicting doom and gloom for Africa, that we didn't have the health resources to combat the pandemic. And yet I think in terms of African governance, African leadership, and we obviously include the bank in that, but bodies like the African Union, the kind of work that President Ramaphosa did as chair of the commission, Africa seems to be in very good hands as it actually combated the pandemic. Was that something that you saw from your perspective as well, that Africa surprised a lot of people, frankly?
Yeah, actually, yes. I must say that at different levels, I feel quite pleased. We are all still in the midst of this, so I don't want to over predict on these things. But quite frankly, I think that under the presidency of and leadership of President Ramaphosa, he was, as a chair of the African Union, he did an outstanding job of making sure the political support, the clarity of vision about how we need to collectively tackle this was there. And so the political thing was very, very strong. And I want to thank, use the opportunity to thank also the chairperson of the African Union Commission, my brother Musa Faki, for his re-election this year, but also for the great job that he and all his team, the Center for Disease Control in Africa, did last year. You know, for us, as we look at this particular issue, as Dr. Gami said, for us at the bank, you know, what we did is off the block, our board of directors approved, you know, a very huge financial facility for African countries to help them in times of their fiscal challenges that they were facing. $10 billion facility was announced by us. Then we launched, as you actually heard, a $3 billion COVID-19 social bond on the global capital markets, which is the largest ever in world history on the global capital markets. And we've used, it's listed on Luxembourg Stock Exchange, London, where you are, and also NASDAQ. Now, the other things that we've done also is to work with others, because Africa can't deal with this alone. We've been working with others, you know, other multilateral development banks like World Bank, IMF, you know, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, several others, and especially with the G20 to look at how to deal with the Africa debt question. You know, and so that has been a lot of conversation we've been having also with the external world on this, which is going very well. There was the G20 debt service suspension initiative, which actually did about $5.2 billion. It's significant, but it's still about 3.4% of the total amount of bilateral debt that Africa has. But nonetheless, it did give the relief that was needed for that. And of course, one of the things that we did, Peter, was to begin to support Africa's own public healthcare ecosystem and defense system. We provided, you know, about $28 million to the Africa Center for Disease Control, and also the West Africa Center Health Organization. WHO itself will provide financing for. And so going forward, the key is leadership at the political level, leadership at the macroeconomic management, fiscal management for Africa's economy, but also leadership in managing the health sector. So these kind of things give me a lot of confidence that things are being managed well. But I will say one of the things that I am very concerned about at this point is just the restricting access, or the more restricted access of African countries to vaccines. You know, as this pandemic happened, you know, you have the European Union launched as part of the economic stabilization program, financial stabilization program, you know, trillions of dollars of support to European countries. United States just saw President Biden, and I'm really delighted with his government, and we're looking forward to working very closely with him because he's laid out a very, very clear plan that I really like. But, you know, he just did, you know, cutting checks for $1.9 trillion. But Africa doesn't have this kinds of money. And so making sure that Africa is not the last off the block when it comes to vaccines is, for me, very, very important. But I think that we can sort that out. I think that we are managing things fairly well. And I think the level of infection on the continent is not as high. You know, in a way, I must say, you know, God is good to us in terms of protecting us. And we pray for everybody else around the world. But, you know, some of the challenges we've had with malaria, with dealing with HIV/AIDS, dealing with Ebola and all of those things, also have created some lessons for African countries that they lock down the economies much faster. People do a lot more social distancing. They were able to do this, wash hands better. So I think we're not off the, you know, out of the woods yet. But I think I like the political, economic, and the macroeconomic management leadership that I'm seeing.
Very interesting, and you paint a picture of Africa in quite a good place, as you say, not out of the woods, but building back strongly economically. We hear a lot about the need to build back better, and I don't know if any of us totally know what build back better means, but how do you foresee build back better? Is it about greater industrialization for Africa? Is it about moving towards green solar power more than fossil fuels? What is your vision for the future of Africa post-pandemic?
Yeah, I think that we should build back better. but we should also build back forward faster, right? Because what has happened is the amount of people that have actually fallen into poverty has increased tremendously. We have right now 39 million people that will fall further into extreme poverty as a result of the lockdowns. Small and medium-sized enterprises, Dr. Gyami was mentioning private sector. A lot of them are informal sector, private sector people. And that has happened. And 30 million young people, 30 million people rather, in terms of employment, it has risen by another 30 million people. So the challenges are certainly there. So building back means you first have to get out of a hole and you put yourself on a trajectory of growth that has to be much faster than you had before. But the question is making sure that that growth is done in a different manner, right? You see, Peter, as you look at the issue of growth, I was asked to write a foreword for a book that's coming out by Professor Das Gupta in the UK. I was asked by UK government to be one of the people to write the foreword and things like that for it. One of the things that I said is that the way we measure growth has to change. We measure growth by GDP, right? Well, GDP is just the value of goods and services produced by an economy. It doesn't tell you anything about how that is done, the negative externalities that it produces. Nobody eats GDP, nobody breathes it, right? We don't breathe it. And so the impact it has on our health, the impact it has on our environment, the impact it has on our biodiversity, on the blue economy, right? And the risk that it poses, for resilient growth are quite significant. So we must ask the question, it's not just growth, but which kind of growth? What kind of impact is it having? So for me, that is very, very important in terms of how we grow back. So we must grow back looking at economic resilience. We must also look at the issue of climate resilience. And we should also look at health resilience. If you take the case of climate, which of course, I'm a big a person when it comes to green growth. I think that making sure that the recovery process pays attention to climate adaptation in Africa. A lot of the attention has to do with the circular economy, how we recycle things and all of that becomes much more important, and how we discount growth that compromises in environment and health. That's very, very important. And so I think that this is the kind of recovery that we need. But I would say one thing, as we grow back, I don't know about you, I'm sure you're probably somebody who you trek a lot or walk up the hills and things like that. But you can't walk fast if you're carrying a heavy load, on your back. But then I mean that Africa is carrying a heavy load on its back, on recovering back, and that is a big debt overhang. And so we've got to make sure that in helping Africa to grow back, we decisively deal with the issue of debt. Today, Africa has $700 billion of debt. And most of that debt is actually not private commercial debt. And so having that to ease the fiscal space for Africa this year and next year is going to be a critical part of growing back better, but growing forward faster.
And then, just finally, you mentioned about the importance of the demographics of African youth. How does the bank turn this massive explosion of population into an opportunity and not a threat?
Well, you and I, when we were kids, just think of what we were all of us on this platform, what we're thinking about. We were young, we were dynamic, we had vision, we wanted to do big things, But at the end of the day, you can only do those things if economic opportunities are open to you. Today in Africa, I don't think we are doing enough at all for Africa's youth. We should do a lot more. And the reason simply is looking at the demographics of Africa. We have today the population of Africa's youth. 1/3 of our population in Africa is between the age of 15 and 35. You've got 60% of the population below the age of 25. So it means that structurally, in terms of demographics of Africa, the dominant population that we have is the youth. So we must be investing in the youth now. I don't like, like Peter, I'll be clear. I don't like the whole word of empowerment of the youth. It doesn't mean anything to me because the people I see getting empowered are the ones who say they are empowering them. I don't see the youth getting empowered, right? The youths don't need freebies. They don't need handouts. They need leg up. They need investment, serious investment to unlock their entrepreneurship, to put their skills to work, to create jobs today and the big companies of the future. When you have an economy like ours that is dominated by the youth, what we do for them today and how we invest in them today will determine the economic trajectory of Africa. Its savings capacity, it is industrialization, you were mentioning, capacity. Now, the youth are so talented. Many of them have gone to school. Well, unemployment is high, right? And that's why, for us at the African Development Bank, I don't see youths as risk at all. I see them as assets of Africa. And I've said that the bank is now going to put its resources to take the risks whatever it takes to unlock a new type and develop a new type of financial ecosystem around Africa's youth. I see them developing fintech companies. I see them all over the place. In digital economy all across our continent, but they need financing. So when a young person, for example, enters a bank and maybe walks in there, see somebody like me with a bow tie and a three-piece suit, they're like, you look at them and say, risk, they just see risk. Why don't we start seeing them as assets and therefore put capital at risk? And that's why, as Dr. Gyami said, the African Development Bank is currently working to help to develop, and we will launch what we call youth entrepreneurship investment banks. They will be specialized banks only on the youth.
That is such an inspiring message to end on, and very look forward to further sustainability, because clearly Africa and the bank are in very good hands. And I will now hand you back to Priscilla and Ken, and congratulations again. It's been very inspiring talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. That was simply amazing. Dr. Akinwumi, always inspiring. I mean, we could listen to you the whole afternoon. But anyway, I'm going to move on very quickly. I'm just going to call on His Excellency, Senator Doyi Diri, the Executive Governor of Bayelsa State, just to say a few words, sir. His Excellency.
Thank you, Priscilla. Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Yes. All right, thank you. Yeah, briefly, I'd just like to say a brief about my state of Bayelsa. Bayelsa was created on the 1st of October in 1996. And the state is in the Niger Delta, the southern part of Nigeria. We call it the South region of our country. And the state has a population of about 1.7 million persons. And Bayelsa State has about the largest crude oil and natural oil deposits in Nigeria. And as a result, petroleum production is very extensive in Bayelsa State. While the president of the FDB was talking, he also made that allusion about the oil reserves of Bayelsa State. And we came into a COVID-19 world. I say so because I assumed office in February 14th, 2020. And as soon as I came into office, not quite a month, the COVID-19 thing started. And we appear to have lost about a year to COVID-19 and other unidentified issues. But be that as it may, from the moment we came in, we identified the opportunities that are bound in Bayelsa. And these opportunities has to do with the oil and gas industry, which I've earlier noted that is in abundance in our state. And again, we also have some kind of advantage, comparative advantage in agriculture. Bayelsa actually is the fish belt of Nigeria, which is yet to be exploited. And I think this is a very good opportunity for me to call on investors in this regard. In Bayelsa, if we have investors in fish farming, I am sure that we will not only feed Nigeria, we will feed Africa as a whole. Aside from fish farming, other agricultural products that can do well in Bayelsa are cassava and palm. We have what we call the Bayelsa palm industry. It's there, it's not doing so well. We are looking at ways of revamping it. And I'm sure going further, if we have a private partnership, we will do better there. There is also a cassava processing plant at a place called Bedebri, and that plant is going to produce starch, and we are working around the clock to ensure that that plant becomes functional, and it will serve not just Nigeria. We are going to also export products from that plant. Bayelsa is also very good for rice farming, and I believe that rice will do very well in Bayelsa. And we're exploring and also partnering with the Central Bank of Nigeria and other investors who are prepared to come into Bayelsa. We also have what we call the Age deep sea port. It's a seaport that do not require any dredging. It's a seaport that we believe that we do well. And so here again, we are looking forward to having partnership with investors, local and foreign, to ensure that that also becomes functional. Currently, there is an international cargo airport that is actually about 99% completed, but we are yet to put it to use. There are certain protocols, particularly of COVID-19, that we are putting in place. And as soon as we put them in place, believing that latest by March, that international cargo airport will be functional. And so Bayelsa has so much of opportunities in tourism, in agriculture, and several other areas. But of particular mention here will be a lot of sand beaches that you can find in Bayelsa. So much of sand beaches, and I'm sure that it can even attract other industries that will maybe see sand as their primary areas of product. We also, in Bayelsa State, we also have a plastic industry, which not quite functional, and we have advertised for local and foreign interests to see how we can also make that plastic industry functional. Others, not taking your time, others there are an eco-industrial park. We have that being put in place by the Nigerian Content Management and Development Board. And there are still other opportunities in the state that I'd like to call on investors, and I'd like to call on those interested to come into. Thank you for taking this little time.
Thank you so much, sir. My sincere apologies for interrupting you there. We need to move on just very quickly, as time is not on our side. But thank you so much for giving us the heads up on what is available in Bayelsa, and welcome to your office, sir. I'm sure it hasn't been easy, came in firefighting like that. Welcome, sir. So I'm going to move over very quickly now for our presentation, the valedictory symbolic souvenirs to our outgoing ALM African of the Year. So I would like to now invite once again to the podium, I would normally say, but of course we are online. So let me just invite Dr. Ken Giami once again to do the presentation.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. And again, thank you, Your Excellency, the Governor of Bayelsa State, and outgoing African of the Year, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. Thank you so much. We know this evening we've been given very strict mandates to stay within a certain time frame. So that's why both Priscilla and Peter are being very conscious. But we assure you that as soon as the initial aspect of this meeting is over, when we will still have a short session to talk more, when we would not be on for the sake of time. But having said that, this evening is actually really about Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, who has made tremendous impact and celebrating its last 1 year as the outgoing African of the Year. We are truly very proud of your achievements. We're excited that you present hope, not just to businesses, but also to governments. His Excellency Governor Diri's presence here is the testament that he believes in what the bank represents, what your leadership represents, and what the future, not just for Bayelsa State, but also for the private sector and also for the ordinary people. And for me, my constituency, the young people of Africa. I think I've been asked here to represent them. I'm excited to hear that you're the man in charge, and Africa is proud of you, and Africa is hopeful for the future. Africa's young people are very hopeful for the future. Some of them have reached out to me consistently. They want to be like you. You make them believe it is possible. They see you and they see possibilities, and that is truly powerful for me. So please accept our symbolic gift by this evening, which is our tradition. The last valedictory meetings are for an induction. Unfortunately, we are not on ground to hand over this gift, but by this speech, by the powers conferred on me by Africa's young people and African voters, we're inducting Dr. Adesina into our African Leadership Hall of Fame. It's an exclusive club for leaders who were not only celebrated, but they lived up to, it's one thing to be awarded. There's another thing to maintain that the award was correct. We are very happy to say that that award was correct. So on that note, please, can I call on His Excellency, the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Adesina, to lift up his symbolic trophy, which is the symbol of his induction into our Hall of Fame. And we say, well done. Please, can you zoom into Dr. Adesina? You can mute. Now, this is a good time to unmute. Can we hear you clap? We want to feel you clap. Thank you very much. And I invite Dr. Adesina to lift up his trophy. Please, your hand up once again. Thank you very much. Congratulations, sir. We're very proud of you. We are excited. I'm all smiles. I just feel like I won jackpot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gary.
Thank you so much. So over to you, sir, for your remarks. Thank you, Your Excellency, sir.
Thank you. Very good.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Giami. You create a lot of emotions for me when I listen to you speak. And so I want to thank you in particular for what you've just done now, because I wasn't aware. My staff walked in and handed me something. They said at a point they're going to ask me to lift it up and just lift it up. So I just follow what they tell me, but you're just telling me about it now. So a lot of appreciation from me. Thank you so much to you, to your board, to all of those in the editorial staff for the great honor that you've given me. I feel tremendously humbled by it. And thank you, because anytime that one is given an award, I always take it as a deposit of hope and expectation that one will continue to work harder to merit that. And so thank you very much. I take it with that humility and with that commitment. For me, that is always resolute, that I will, as long as I live, I will only serve humanity. I would like to say, Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Governor Donye of Bayelsa State, and my dear Dr. Giami, and the rest of the team at the African Leadership Magazine. I wish to express my deepest appreciation and gratitude to the chairman and board members of the African Leadership Magazine for the honor of being the African of the Year for 2020. I appreciate your excellent support throughout the year, and especially that of your really dynamic chairman of the African Leadership Magazine, Dr. Gyami. Not only in terms of the work of the magazine, but also in terms of his personal outreach, his personal support throughout a very, very challenging year, 2020. As a kid, everybody woke up and said, well, we were told that 2020 is the year when everything will be done. The whole world will be fed by 2020. Poverty will disappear 2020 and all of that. What a 2020 it has been. It hasn't been what we were told. It's been a very, very challenging, it was indeed, of 2020 for us. The year 2020 was challenging in many ways. The COVID-19 pandemic upended economic growth. So many lives were lost. No country has been spared. And today we have 3.6 million Africans that are infected with over 92,000 deaths. And every time, just like you, that I wake up and I feel any of these things, not only in Africa, but in any part of the world, my heart breaks that we have something that we all have to work together to make sure that we resolve very quickly, because one death is just one, way too many. The African Development Bank, we rose to the challenge. Our board of directors approved a $10 billion crisis response facility for the countries. The bank launched, as I said, a $3 billion fight COVID-19 social bond on the global capital market, which is the largest ever in world history. That's listed on the London Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and on Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Our support of the countries helped them to stabilize in the midst of the crisis. I am optimistic about Africa's economic recovery trajectory. As I said in my remarks while talking to Peter, the GDP growth of Africa is expected to rebound from 2.1% in 2020 to 3.4% in 2021. Things are expected to get better for many of the countries, especially those that depend on tourism. We project that the economy will grow back from 11.8% in 2020 to 6.8% in 2021. Now, Governor Adesina must be very happy that all exporting countries who suffered a lot of collapse of oil prices are projected to recover from 1.5% GDP growth last year to 3.1% this year. And I'm also very equally excited that the countries that are dependent on other resources, minerals and metals, will rebound from minus 4.7% in 2020 to 3.1% in 2021. The non-resource intensive countries are projected to rebound from 0.9% last year to 4.1% in 2021. So that is a light at the end of the tunnel. It just happens to be a very long tunnel. I'm very positive that African economies will bounce back over the next 2 years. But the speed of recovery will depend on ensuring that Africa gets access to enough vaccines for its population. The world must not shortchange Africa on access to vaccines. We must not be short-sighted. As long as the virus is in any part of the world, no one is safe. African countries should also look into possible therapeutic drugs that can help them to stem the pandemic. Africa must expand its options, not restrict its options. We must urgently resolve the issue of the high debt facing African countries. While developed countries have been spending trillions of dollars for fiscal stimulus, Africa does not have such resources. Payments for vaccines are also adding to the already high debt burden. To recover faster, Africa will need significant debt forgiveness from bilateral and official creditors. As we look to the future, we will do so with hope, confidence, and a sharper focus. Together, we will create new opportunities for Africa's youth and trigger a youth-based wealth system in Africa. Together, we will ensure that growth delivers financing for women of Africa. Together, we will support Africa to build world-class quality healthcare infrastructure, while ensuring that Africa builds also its pharmaceutical and vaccine industrial production. Africa must no longer be dependent on others for its health security. I'd like to congratulate and commend the African Leadership Magazine on naming my dear brother, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, Director General of the World Health Organization, as the African of the Year for 2021. What a choice. He has been resilient in the face of this pandemic, and he has made Africa so proud. His leadership will be critical as we collectively navigate the rest of this year and also the years ahead. It is my joy and delight to hand over the baton to Tedros. Africa's best years are just ahead. Let's remain focused, determined, and resilient. Africa will excel, and Africa will shine. And the African Leadership Magazine will continue to be like a city set on a hill and make sure Africa is not hidden. I thank you very much for the honor of having been African of the Year for 2020. God bless you. I'm very grateful.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akinwumi. Thank you and congratulations once again. You were very much our rightful African of the Year for the year 2020, and you know it proved the point, as it were, always an inspiration, not just to young Africans, but even to the older generation too. We all still, well, I'm not that old, but we all still look up to you. Thank you very much, sir. And on that note, I'm just going to now invite to share with us very quickly Dr. Barry Benoit, Chairman of Contact Global Group. Sir, you're very welcome.
Excellencies, thank you very much. And I'm very proud to be here on this occasion with one very august gentleman who's just given an award, and the other one who's been nominated, the governor of Bielsa, and it's a pleasure to be here. Very briefly, very quickly, I'm an African, having lived in Nigeria now for the last 43 years to be exact. So it's home. It's where what I believe in. We are involved as a group in a number of things. Very quickly, our core businesses are contactless travel systems, really, which is online visas, online passports, documentation, handling things like that. We're also involved in fintech. We have the first telephone manufacturing companies in Africa, where we are producing mobile phones, tablets, computers, all of those. We are in Nigeria. We are in Equatorial Guinea. We are in Angola. We are in Sierra Leone. We are in Senegal. We're in Ghana. We're expanding rapidly with all of this. My concentration, my real baby, my passion has been agriculture of late. And in agriculture, what I realized was that there was so much opportunity in doing it right, in making agriculture sustainable and providing. I heard Dr. Adesina talking about the 30 million youth and more that are going to be employed. Now, this is a huge group of people that need to be employed, but whether we can attract them to the farm was the big question. So that's where precision farming comes in. Not every kid wants to be there with a shovel and a hoe. They can be drone pilots. We have the first license to start training youngsters to fly drones. Our telephones talk to the drones. The telephones, which is called AfriOne, now relate all the information to the farmers on the ground. We looked at how we start improving the soil beneficiation, and we got involved with biological fertilizers, biological growth agents, things that are sustainable and are healthy and provide for, you don't have to be dumping tons and tons of chemical fertilizer to produce what you're producing. You can use our own soil, our own very, very nutritive soil, and produce what you can. We have been using this. It's been under vigorous testing in Nigeria with FADAMA, with all the various agencies, including DFID, including USAID, the German GIZ, the French, the Japanese, all of them have been using this. We have supported over 100,000 farmers over the last 3 years, had wonderful success, wonderful results. Our feather in our cap was when we went into Qatar, and in the harshest of climates and conditions, we were able to start a very successful program of greening the desert. And we were able to grow a number of agriculture produce, a lot of agriculture produce. And we did this using our own fertilizers that we had produced in Nigeria. And the cost of these was less than 60% of the cost that the Qataris were paying earlier. And we saw an increase of 10 to 20% year on year on the crops. We also acquired an Australian company which does food preservatives. And it so happened that the food preservatives and the food grade preservatives are also suitable for fighting this terrible virus, COVID. And these are all natural products, and they are alcohol free. They are made out of forest waste, out of agriculture waste. So we're able to turn that into a very effective sanitizer, into food preservatives. It's good enough to swallow, all of that. So that's really what we're involved with in our biological fertilizer concentrates. We make them into granules. We make them into powder. So we use the soil to convert that. So those are the kind of things that we are involved with. If I have the time, I mean, I was just listening to His Excellency the Governor of Bayelsa. We had signed with the Ministry of Agriculture to supply, for example, 20 million banana plants to various state governments. Now, these were meant for youth employment. So a youth, we do our own tissue culture to make sure that the bananas grow hardy and are immune to disease, well, all the other diseases that are happening there today. And on one hectare of land, you can plant almost 2,500 banana plants. Our own tissue culture laboratories are producing these, and we are able to give to these youngsters, or we would have been able to give to these youngsters, 2,500 plants and say, okay, here's your 1 acre of land. This is what you need to do. We will talk to you through your telephone, through the drones, and you just need to grow these. And if you look after them, this is the fertilizer, these are the plants, here you go. We have, since then, we have planted these on our own farms, and we were expecting about 30 kgs per plant, and we are now doing about 50 kgs per plant. And you can imagine 2,500 plants into 50 kgs with a minimum selling price, even in Nigeria, not talking about export, is going to be is at 200 naira. Is I don't have my calculator with me, but it's a lot of money for a youth to be making year on year. And even if he's paying back what we have advanced in terms of the plant price and the price of the fertilizer, at least he's suitably occupied and he's making a lot of money, and you're attracting him back to the farm. The same thing applies with fish farming. To grow fish is easy, but to find the correct feed for the fish is what we need to do. We need to set up very quickly fish feed plants, which we have done in 3 or 4 different states. The same thing with rice propagation. We are working with a number of governments, state governments already, on very large rice, but the byproduct of all of this is what fish eat. So nature is a wonderful thing, and you will find one leading into the other. So these are the kind of initiatives that we are taking, and we're certainly hoping that I will get a chance to sit both with His Excellency Dr. Adesina and with His Excellency the Governor of Bayelsa, and come and talk to them about what we're doing, and try and let them see what we're achieving, and hope that they're going to look at us and say, yes, these guys are in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Benoit. That was, wow, there's a lot of things. There are a lot happening over on the continent of Africa. And it's a pleasure to meet you. You've been in Nigeria for 40 years. That's a long time. Making such great impact also.
Can I add 2 lines?
Sorry? Okay.
If you don't mind, can I add 2-3 lines?
Oh, just bear with me a moment, sir. What I would like us to do for now, if I may, I would like to just take time out to say a very big thank you to those who are joining us online. And I would like to say a very big thank you to all of us who are here at the moment. I'd like to, because we're going to go off the live stream now and just have a private conversation for a brief moment. So if I may ask our technical to please take us off. So on behalf of the African Leadership Magazine, His Excellency Dr. Akinwumi, congratulations to you once again. Thank you for being an exemplary African that we can celebrate, and that we can, have you share with us so passionately and lead Africa in the way that you are. We are grateful and very proud of your achievements, very proud of what you do and how far you have come. And on that note, on behalf of the team and the leadership, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you to everybody that are here today. Thank you, Dr. Benoit. Thank you, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Bayelsa State. And thank you to all those who have joined us online. Thank you to Peter. Thank you, of course, to yourself, Sandeep. But we are not done yet. So thank you all so much. So now we're just going to move into a private conversation. So if we can all just stay, but to those of who are joining us from around the world, thank you. Thank you for joining us.